Energy is the fundamental capacity for change, right? It's the fundamental substance that brings us to life. Without energy, then you're just dead, right? And then the laws of physics and chemistry apply and entropy, and then you just decompose and that's it. So it's the flow of energy through the system that gives, it brings structure, it brings DNA, right? It brings all of the physical body into motion and into life. Healing is the process of becoming whole again, right? And of growing um, and learning in some ways. And that requires energy. So without energy, there can be no healing. And healing, importantly, is a process, right? So what does that mean? If something is a process, to understand it, to fully understand it, you need to look at it over time. So the typical scientific approach is you measure something and then you from that something, like you sequence a genome or you image cells under the microscope or you run proteins on some, fancy machine. And that we assume would tell us about the individual, right? When you think about the individual as an energetic process that is in the process of healing, right? So it calls for dynamic approaches, right? In scientific jargon, it's called longitudinal or repeated measures. So that's one element. The other element is then every person is unique. And that's not just a kind of a saying that has no meaning. Like truly, each person is unique. And the hypothesis, like 20 years ago, early 2000s, late 1990s, the hypothesis, but 25 years ago, was that by sequencing someone's genome, you were going to be able to know that person. And then you would know what disease they're going to have, and then you would be able to design, personalized treatments. And that's the whole idea behind personalized medicine or precision medicine. This hypothesis has largely been disproven. If we think about this scientifically, we sequence a lot of human genomes. And we did studies with millions of human beings to try to understand which genes is the cause of Alzheimer's, which gene is the cause of cardiovascular disease, which gene is the cause of cancer. And the answer is there are no genes that cause these common chronic illnesses. There's some genes that have very small effect, like 1%, 5%, maybe 10% if you combine like all sorts of genes together. 10% increased risk. 10% is not deterministic. So genes don't cause these common chronic illnesses. And especially don't determine when someone's going to get sick, right? You look at someone's genome, which is a static picture. There is no way of knowing who's going to get sick when they're going to get sick. People get sick over time, right? It's a dynamic process. Just like health evolves and changes over time, just like healing and the process of preserving health and building optimal health is a dynamic process that evolves over time. Your ability to heal is not written in your genes. And when and of what you're going to get sick is not written in your genes. And in fact, there's a very small proportion of how long you live. If you want to know how long you're going to live, sequencing your genome is going to tell you about 7%. 7% of the variant, 7% of how long someone's going to live or not. That's a very small sliver is maybe genetically driven. So the idea that longevity and diseases are rooted in genes is mostly a disproven hypothesis.